الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Brothers and sisters, family, friends and strangers on YouTube, I want to address an important topic. Again, seeking guidance from what we consider to be the divine memorandum, what we consider to be the faultless and uncontaminated communication from the divine creator of the universe to this planet, to the human folk, the conscious thinking people of this planet. And the particular aspect from the divine testament and message that I want to visit in this session today is the idea of evil power. Evil power is not a concept strange to the Holy Book, to the Quran. If you care to read with understanding or to read the English meaning of the Quran from the front to the back, you'll come to the realization that the Quran is constantly highlighting a earthly conflict. And I want to make it practical for you. An historical narrative is presented in the Quran at the hand of various stories from the past. And let me take a few examples. The story of Moses and Pharaoh, Moses versus Pharaoh. The story of Abraham versus the idolaters. The story of Lot versus his people. The story of the people of Samud and Shu'aib, and so forth and so on. The prophet Noah and his people, Nuh in Arabic, and his people. And these stories are replete. They are recurring, they are highlighted, and they are constantly being invoked as a lesson for future generations. And the one thing that comes out from all these stories is the presence of an evil power. And so, if we are serious about paying heed to this book, to this word of guidance, and if we close our ears for a moment to the noises of the priests and of the church and of the official clergy established by the kings and the oppressors, then we will be able to get the message coming from the word of the Almighty clearly, without contamination. And what I want to get clear in reading the message of the Almighty is, what are the features of these evil forces that were operating in history? What are their general features? How do I know them? And what is my role vis-a-vis those evil forces? So saying that evil doesn't exist, or that it's not relevant, or you don't have a role to play, is one option. You know, you can sit there in your home and decide that you are not interested in change. You are not interested in the evil that is going on. In fact, in the in Christian in the Christian church, there's a belief of the fallen world, of the fallen earth. And that is a form of escapist doctrine. It's a doctrine that says that we have to surrender the earth to the forces of evil, and that God really has surrendered earth to Satan and to the forces of evil. And there's a similar doctrine in some very traditionalist Islamic schools of thought. There's a certain version of Shiism that believes that the world is given to the forces of evil, and that only when the Mahdi returns can we move a finger to restore justice and balance on earth. Then there's also in Sunni history or doctrines in historically the Murji'ites, or those who believe that evil should be tolerated and should be left to the final days of judgment. So I want us to tune out all these false doctrines and beliefs, and look purely at what the Holy Book says, what the Quran says. And what the Quran says is the following. Let's look at what the Quran says. It says, those who leave their homes in the cause of Allah and are then slain or die, on them will Allah bestow very a goodly provision. Truly Allah is He who bestows the best provision. Look at that. Now that is something else from saying that you need to accept your fate. And the difference between, of course, the evil power, how it is understood in other religions, in the doctrine of the fallen earth, or in the doctrine of the Murji'ites, who says tolerate evil, or the doctrine of the Shia, the section of the Shia that says that no revolution can take place before the advent of the Mahdi. So the Quran offers an alternative, and the alternative that the Quran offers is the alternative of striving, struggling, and of course martyrdom. So the Quran offers not just striving, struggling, martyrdom, but also exile. So those are the options that the Quran offers, and there are numerous verses in the Quran. I will make it available to some of you guys if you are interested. Speak about confronting evil power. But this topic is not about saying that we have to confront evil power. We know that from the reading of the Quran, that evil is not allowed to go unchecked. The question we're asking is, what is evil power? Now that we know that you cannot be docile or indifferent in the face of evil, we need to know then what are we. There are some of us, let me rather say, who are by some good fortune of God's grace, and through our own way that we function in this world, we find ourselves fairly secure and in a relative state of comfort, financially both, and in terms of our health. And the people I want to address here now is not really the people who are already exploited, oppressed, exiled, under bombardment. So if you're a Yemeni person facing bombs who had their kids' legs amputated by bombs, or if you're a person in Gaza and you've experienced the fire, the burn, your children have been burned, your wife, your home has been destroyed, or if you're a person in Kashmir, or if you're a person living in a township, forced to live in squalor in Crossroads, Cape Town, where the sewage is running in your back door, where your child drowns in a pit latrine, where the government is completely indifferent and switched off to your needs, and where you are merely a slave that must serve. If you are not one of those, because if you're one of those categories, if you are one of those people, I would expect you to hate the system. I would expect you to hate and to identify that evil power does exist. If your child is bombed in Israel or by an American bomb in Afghanistan, wherever, you know that evil exists. Or if you're that child in a township at the behest or at the mercy of gang shootings on a Friday night in Menenberg, etc., or your youngsters are being supplied with drugs and unga and tik and whatever, you know evil exists, right? I'm not speaking to you then, to those people then, because those people are very much aware that evil exists because they see it. It's in front of their eyes. Or if you're a victim of the health system, you've been milked by the private hospitals, you've been charged R1 million, or your father has paid R1 million for health services and for lying 5 days in a private hospital and then died anyway, then you know the evil of the health system and the evil of how they cheat and con you to exploit you based on your insecurities. If you're in any of those categories, then this is not for you. But if you are living in relative comfort, if you are guaranteed your income, if you are guaranteed a relatively good state of health, if you are comfortable and cozy at night and sleeping and you are assured that nothing will interrupt your night, no bombs will go off and no drug merchant will break into your house, or no tik addict will break into your house, then I'm speaking to you then. I'm speaking to you. And what does the Quran say? The Quran addresses you. The Quran addresses you. Let me show you what the Quran says. What the Quran says here. This is what the Quran says. Let me read the English. Let not, and this is the Yusuf Ali translation, let not those among you who are endued with grace and amplitude of means resolve by oath against helping their kinsmen, those in want, and those who have left their homes in Allah's cause. Let them forgive and overlook. Look, do you not wish that Allah should forgive you? For Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. A crystal clear command or call on you, on me, the ones who are comfortable, the ones who have been saved and spared the wrath of the enemy, the wrath of the evil one, who by chance have been left by those evil forces in relative calm and peace. And here the instruction comes that do not then turn your back on those who are suffering the wrath of the oppressor and the enemy. And so why do I say this? I'm saying this because I want to tell you that the confrontation of evil, of the enemy, of the forces of evil which the Quran speaks about, is not just the duty of those who are the victims of that evil. There are those who are in relative safety and with relatively strong means materially that should join the fight. If you don't join the fight, if you sit at home in comfort and luxury and with your big screen TV and with your super duper sound system and with your Mnet and your in Netflix and with your Showtime and with your all the channels and everything, you're sitting there and relaxing in front of your fancy sofa, and you do not spare a thought for those who are suffering the raw injustice and oppression of the forces of evil, then you are not of the people of Allah. You are not of the people of the Quran. No matter if you fool yourself and you're saying, no, but I make salah, no, but I give zakah, I do this, I do that. No, you are not of the people of the Quran. And you will be judged accordingly, not only in the year after, but also in this world. So, what are the features of these forces of evil? And I'm not going to go into deep because I don't want to make a long video, but in brief, these forces of evil are simply those people that cause the shedding of blood, as this verse states here. Shed no blood among blood, nor turn out your own people from your homes. So it is those who shed blood. The forces of evil are those who shed the blood of other people unjustly. Are there people like that today? Are there people today that shed blood of other people unjustly? What do you think? Of course there are. Of course there are. Not only overseas, right here, next door to you. Next door to you. If you know, I used to live in an area called Rondebosch East or Lansdowne. There's a big giant mosque complex there next to a few 100 meters from my house, built at a cost of I think half a quarter billion rand, or worth a quarter billion rand. And if you take that same road and you drive 15 kilometers down that road, you get to Gangland, you get to Menenberg, you get to Hanover Park, you get to a place where I physically went into people's homes and found those people hungry. As true as God. Where I went physically into people's homes and found those people to be hungry and without anything to eat. I found widows whose husbands had died without any means of survival. And if you go further down that road, another kilometer or a few kilometers, then you end up in Nyanga and into the informal camps of Cape Town, where people's houses are burnt, where people are burnt to crisp in the massive shack fires in summer, where the people's houses are flooded in winter, and where as a daily routine the people have to trample and step over sewage water, raw sewage, to get to the road, to the street, where the children are raped, where the women are raped when they want to try and go to a taxi rank. Just a few kilometers from that quarter billion rand complex, all of those was happening. Now you tell me, are these the people of the Quran? They spend a quarter billion rand on an amazing architectural beauty with amazing soft carpets that your feet can sink into. Is that the spirit of the Quran? And you ask these people, what is your program to undo or to confront those who do evil? And they don't have a program. So my point today is there is no toleration or tolerance or acceptance of evil. There is no fallen earth concept in the Quran. The Quran does not concede this world to evil. And the features of evil most commonly mentioned, and I'm not going to go through more verses, are those who cause insecurity for some people, who cause poverty for people, who cause a rank or rampant immorality and a loss of values to society and to communities, who steal the dignity and the honor of people. Because if you look at the stories of let's say, of Musa versus Fir'aun. Fir'aun was stripping a section of the people of their dignity, maintaining them in a state of servitude and poverty, and not allowing them to escape that situation of squalor, misery, and poverty. At that time, it refers to the Bani Israel, kept in those position, in that state of oppression and degradation, similar to what we see today here. The colonizers who colonized our country in 1652 and before that, they've imposed a state of poverty. Well, don't you believe that? I mean, that they've imposed a state of poverty, generational poverty. They've imposed it. And where people were able to escape that poverty, they just forced them back into poverty. I mean, if you're from Cape Town and you've owned property in Claremont, or you've owned property in Goodwood, and if you've owned property in the heart of Cape Town, you know what I'm talking about. Your homes were confiscated by the apartheid regime, and the ANC as the illegitimate or the successors to the apartheid regime, who continued many of the policies of apartheid, they never made amends. There was no reparations paid to you if you had your houses and your property confiscated. So those who cause insecurity are the colonizers, and the inheritors of the colonizers today are the people who rule, are the super rich who maintain their power, are the religious priests who support these rich people, who are on the payroll of these rich people, and who keep the system intact, are the media houses, the mega media corporations like ETV and SABC News and whoever else, and Media 24 and Eyewitness News, and all these people who amplify the position of the colonizers. And these are evil. These are the evil forces of our day. If you want to sit there and think, no, the evil forces are actually, the guys who are like gossiping and worshipping false gods, and so, no, those are not the evil forces. The evil forces are the real power of evil, is the real power of evil in this country and in the world. And the Quran's position is not to become a murji'ite, in other words, to become a tolerant Muslim. The Quran's position is not to become what the Christians do and say, yeah, we surrender this earth to the devil, but we will take the year after. Or like some of the Shia say that no, any revolution before the Mahdi comes is an illegitimate revolution. We reject all those false doctrines that are doctrines that the colonizer and that the oppressor wants to confuse you with. And the real direction we get from the Holy Quran. And the Quran calls on you when you are a victim of oppression, but more so when you are spared by the oppressor, to rise up and to do whatever is necessary to confront evil. If you a person in relative comfort, it's not always easy to move from that position to a position of confrontation. But you know what? There are degrees of confronting evil, and the first step of confronting evil is to develop a mindset of resistance. You need to become uncomfortable with the enemy. You need to become uncomfortable with the ruling party. You need to become uncomfortable with big tech and big media and big business causing this type of poverty and insecurity in your country, in our country. You need to become uncomfortable with America and Israel bombing and maiming and burning people every single day. You need to become uncomfortable with these things. That's the very, very first step. When you become uncomfortable, alhamdulillah, then you are already oriented in the right direction. But if you're not even uncomfortable, if you believe in Don Fauci's beliefs and in the World Health Organization and in Bill Gates and all these people and the sinister ideas which they are spreading throughout the world, then you are still part of them. And remember, the Quran, I'm going to close with this. This is the reality. The Quran the Quran always, when it raises the stories of oppression, from Musa versus Fir'aun, from Nuh versus his people. It's never Musa versus Fir'aun. It's always Musa versus the people of Fir'aun. It's always Shu'aib versus his people. It's always Nuh versus his people. What does that tell us? What does that tell us? And you can read the Quran, you'll confirm what I'm telling you. Is that the oppressor always galvanizes and mobilizes the majority of the population on his side. The oppressor will always pacify and co-opt either the majority or a large percentage of the population on their side. So if you look around you and you see your neighbors are quite happy with the COVID lockdowns and with the stupid mask mandates and with the vaccine mandates, and they are going along, if you see everyone, that's no indication that that it is not an act of that there's no oppression involved in it. Or if you see around you that people are in townships being killed, and somebody tells you, but they've got themselves to blame. They are the ones who drink and take drugs and sleep around. Then you have adopted the philosophy of the oppressor. If you blame the oppressed for their own oppression, if you find that that the people in general, your people, are okay, that with the COVID mandates and with the gang activities and with bombing of people in Gaza and in Yemen, then you are on the other side of the fence, my friend. Then you are not Musa, then you are the people of Fir'aun. And one day, when we are reawoken after having died and being brought back to life, you will not be raised with Musa. You will not be raised with Muhammad, but you will be raised with the people of Fir'aun, because you were living in comfort and relative luxury, and you never even felt uncomfortable with the evil. So my brothers, my sisters, I'm asking you on this day, it's a Jumu'ah day, consider this a Jumu'ah khutbah also perhaps. The first step is to become uncomfortable with evil. Become uncomfortable with the ANC and with the DA and all these powers that are serving imperialism and colonialism. Become uncomfortable with them. Support small parties. Support a small councillor or a small person that is in politics that is doing the right thing. First of all, start there. Number two, become uncomfortable with the way the global order operates. The World Health Organization being a paid instrument of Bill Gates and of all these other health oppressors, medical oppressors. Become uncomfortable with them. Read up. Just because somebody pays your salary, and I also worked for the system. I worked for government. I was a teacher. I was paid by the apartheid system, but I never surrendered my soul to them. I told them, rather lock me up or fire me, and I was fired eventually from my teaching post. Because it's a shame to serve the master who pays your salary blindly. That's a shame. So if you're a doctor, if you're a pharmacist, if you're a nurse, whatever you are, don't blindly serve the system. Embrace the system blindly. Never ever do that. You serve the system. You serve God, not the system. So let me end there, and I thank you. And I when you are strong enough to feel uncomfortable with evil, and when you abhor it, when you hate it, and you see it for what it is causing insecurity, it is causing death, it is causing poverty, they are causing, indignity to the people, then you can go to the next step and awaken your neighbor, awaken your son and your daughter and your wife, and tell them about the evil. And maybe then the next step could be for us to collaborate and cooperate and use our funds and use our time to fund those organizations and those people who are speaking out on a more broader level, or even those people who are undermining and attacking and confronting the evil system. then we can start funding them, and then we could ourselves perhaps escalate and elevate our own involvement. But the very beginning is at least to identify evil and to become outraged by it. I thank you for listening, and inshallah next time we'll have another program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.